It's about that time. Guys, welcome back to Just Nuts. Today, we've got another deck profile for you. This time, we're looking at Evil Eye. This is one of my personal favorite archetypes, especially as far as like recent memory goes, like newly released archetypes over the past year or two. It's a really cool control strategy that's based around technically two equip spells, and that's really cool because other than this deck, really the only deck I can think of that is really based around equip spells is Noble Knights. That they're not as good, but luckily this deck is a little better at making use of them and not bricking as much off of them and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's a really cool deck, really fun control strategy. I don't even remember what the last deck profile I made on this looks like because I don't think that's a good way to look at this. I just want to bring you guys the best list I can get you at this moment in time, so I don't want to be skewed on trying to do different, just making it different from my last profile when different isn't necessarily better. Sometimes the list you had before was good, and just small updates can make it good, can still make it the best version it can be for the time being. All right, but this is also post-eternity code, so we are using the new card that did come out in eternity code for this deck, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to profile it. So without further ado, let's just jump right into things with our monsters. As far as the Evil Eye monsters go, I'm keeping it extremely, extremely condensed. We're looking at 3 copies of Surzeal and 2 copies of Basilius. These are the only 2 Evil Eye monsters I play in the main deck. And yeah, they're great. Surzeal is your Stratos of sorts. On normal summon, he searches any Evil Eye card, as well as while he is equipped with an Evil Eye of Selene, he gains a quick effect that allows you to pop any special summoned monster your opponent controls, and if you use that effect on your next standby phase, he will force you to pop one of your own cards, but you have other ways of making good use of that popping stuff that you don't mind being popped and all that. So really, really good card. It's a disruption, it's Stratos, it's everything. And then also 2 copies of Basilius. He can special summon himself from hand, as well as once per turn dump any Evil Eye spell or trap from the deck straight to the grave, which is really nice, especially with the new equip that's not super new but kind of newish, Gorgonia, because it has a nice trade-in effect in the grave. So he's really nice as well. Free body as well as the extendability effect. Moving on to the rest of the monsters, our weird monsters here. We'll start with the artifacts here, looking at 1 Scythe, 1 Moral Attack, as well as 2 Kaijus in Gamma Seal and Radiant. There's really not too much to say here. The only stuff I really want to throw out there is these are great. I really like this in specific matchups, so I really like that. And also 1 going second, this is usually better than Scythe, as well as the fact that after you use Scythe the first time, if you ever run into another Sanctum, Moral Attack is better from that point on, almost every time in a grindier matchup. They're both big bodies to throw on the field after scything somebody. A lot of times decks just can't even get to something bigger than 2200 after being scythed, and we will take that. And then for the Kaijus, I just thought these were a nice tech, and I think Kaijus are actually pretty good right now, especially because Adamantimators are definitely a combo deck, and Eldritch does combos. But the thing is, they don't end on insane boards. They end on nice boards with 2 disruptions, maybe a third if you include IP Masquerena with Adamantipator. So the key here is that you can just if you can Kaiju over the Boral Savage, especially if they equipped it with the Dragon Buster, it does give you a pretty clean out to the most threatening monster on their field. And then from there, Evil Eye also has fairly respectable capabilities of playing through 1 disruption after that. So combine this with a nice Evil Eye hand, and you can get things done. Or these with a hand trap probably lets you play straight through a board. So thought they were a nice tech in. Radiant, because he's a fiend, by the way, is only relevant because of the new card. It locks you into fiends. So if you happen to draw both, you give your opponent the Gamma Seal, and then you would be able to summon Radiant because he is a fiend. There. The only other monster I play is 3 Ash Blossom and Joy Spring. This is just super standard at this point. I don't think this is the most insane card in the format, but I just think Ash will never be terrible. I think it'll always be that nice staple, always consistent. It does something to your opponent every single time. It may not stop a turn every single time, but it will hinder it, and that's what something like this deck is looking for. It's a disruption. It's an extra disruption if you're going first, and it's a card that gives you a chance to play a little better going second by hindering your opponent from going full combo. And then we move on to the spells. So for the spells, we started off with 3 Evil Eye, Domain, Pareidolia, and also the 4th copy. This card is insane. It searches you Surzeal or potentially Basilius if you already have Surzeal. Great. I mean, just Konami went crazy and they went They went wild with going for these field spells that search stuff out of your deck, and it's great. 3 Extravagance. I know this isn't budget, but I think this is just one of those decks where you really only care about one main card in your extra deck, and so if you play that, you kind of got to play Extravagance. This is the best way to play the deck. If you don't want to play this, you could try Duality. I mean, this version does like to special summon in a fair amount of hands, so Duality definitely loses value there, but you might want to change up the build if you're on a budget and go for a more Duality-oriented build, play more traps, more control-y type stuff in that way, and you can still make it work. And for the equipped spells, we've got 2 copies of Selene and 2 copies of Gorgonio. Now these are pretty good. This is a ratio I've been feeling pretty good about lately. I think this is fine because if you open one, a lot of times it's really nice. I've been doing this lately where I just go Surzeal. You see Adamantipator decks as well as some Lich builds just playing like Imperm or Veiler. Or even Ash, and so like they just hand trap your Surzeal so he doesn't search, but then you just equip him with one of these because you opened them in hand, and like you still get that disruption, you get the protection. It's really nice. And Gorgonio is your target always off of Basilius because you just want to get this engraved so you can use its effect to banish itself, discard Evil Eye card to add any Evil Eye spell or trap, which is really good because like not only does it get certain stuff engraved that you might potentially want, like Selene, because it just gets itself back on board. But like if you open like weird like Evil Eye cards that aren't great in the whatever like matchup you're in, you can just discard them for something better, and it really helps like with consistency and ending up with hands of whatever you actually want instead of just being stuck with those cards in hand. So definitely a nice like consistency piece there. 2 Copycat. I'm just kidding. This is the this is the new card. This is Evil Eye, I believe it's called Manifestation. So pretty much what this card says is special summon 1 Evil Eye token, but if you control an Evil Eye of Selene, you can summon 2 tokens instead. They're like level 1/0/0 tokens. The only other restriction is they do lock you into, or this card locks you into only being able to summon Fiend monsters for the rest of the turn, which is definitely a hindrance, especially as far as like generic extra deck stuff goes, but you're getting 2 free tokens pretty quick, so you got to have some kind of restriction there. But yeah, it's a 1 card Gorgon, and that's like the main idea there as a nice extender. Moving on, the last 2 spells we play is 1 Evil Eye Awakening and 1 Evil Eye Confrontation. These are more like utility cards. Evil Eye Awakening comes up in very specific situations, but when it does come up, it comes up very, very nice. Certain stuff just like playing through Disruption. Like I've done stuff where I've gotten like Surzeal to search, my opponent just like just chains to pop it like immediately, and then I just end up searching this so I can just reborn the Surzeal and then immediately like just equip, you know, Surzeal as long as I had a way access to an equip spell, and then it felt like nothing really happened. It was just Monster Reborn. Or you just get a special from deck, which is pretty good with like Basilius if you hard open this. And then Evil Eye Confrontation. This is like another utility card, mainly just a nice card versus Eldritch. That's why I'm keeping 1 copy in the main. If you have Selene on the field, it's pretty much just Cosmic Cyclone, banish a spell or trap. But normally it's MST, you just have to control an Evil Eye monster. So nice in back row matchups, just the only like actual spell and trap removal we have, but it's searchable, so I felt like 1 copy was pretty good. Just nice utility if you're ever in that kind of matchup. And then we move to the traps. This is the other like supporting like control aspect of the deck. We start with 3 Trap Check. I think this is very important in this deck. I already showed you the artifact stuff, so of course we have 3 Sanctum here, and then 3 Imperm as well. 3 Imperm is just really nice. I mean, you pair the Imperms with the 2 Kaijus as well as the 3 Ash, and you've got 8 pretty good cards going second. Hopefully, if you do lose the die roll, you see a combination of 2 of those, or at least 1, to give yourself a chance to like slow your opponent down, because nowadays, especially if you play a combo deck, if you let them go full combo, they are just going to like punish you. But those are really good. You really want access to Sanctum. I just feel like it's just too good. I thought about, oh yeah, one more thing I want to say is, before I decided to go with the Sanctum artifact package, I was playing just like a big Solemn package, like 3 Strike, 3 Judgment. The problem with that was this deck pays a lot of life points with your equip spell, and what I found was if I ever activated a Judgment, I could very, very quickly, 2, maybe even less than 2 turns, but maybe 2 to 3 turns, I would already be staring at my life points and being like, wow, my life points are super low already. Just because I've been paying life points so frequently that I just ended up in like such a pickle with life points. And so I kind of wanted to get off the Solemns because you still can end up in pickles with your life points if your opponent ever dinks you for any damage. So I decided to go with this. So this wasn't a problem. I just had duels where like I pretty much controlled the entire duel, but the end of the duel was still iffy because when I went to try and like finish things up, I had less options because I couldn't just be activating effects willy-nilly because I'd be burning myself and getting myself so close to just dying via my own burn. So that's why I decided to lean off the Solemns, but maybe I would still side the Judgments just because this deck can lose to just like evenly matched Lightning Storm. That kind of stuff is like they're huge side deck stuff. All right, for the Evil Eye traps, though, moving on, we've got 2 Evil Eye Defeat. This card is Compulsory Evacuation Device if you have an Evil Eye monster, but if you have Evil Eye of Selene on your field, it actually bounces 2 monsters instead of 1, so very, very powerful. I think Compulse is fairly weak against Adamantipator, but bouncing 2 is not, because they go like Needle Fiber, Special Summon the O-Lion, and if you just bounce both, the O-Lion's a complete brick in hand, and Needle Fiber's off the field, and they just like probably pass from there. And then Retribution, this card only negates spell or trap cards. If it negated a monster 2, I would love this card. I might even consider just playing it at like 3 because it'd be like so much more versatile. But with stuff like Adamantipator running around, like the targets for this are like Signs and like I guess Imperm. And that's like almost it. Unexpected Die if you really want to blow it on that. But once you see the die, you're like, I might not have another target to show this on, so you might as well neutralize that extender. Like, it's so mediocre versus them, so just the 1. But if there's a matchup better, I would probably like side 1 or 2 copies more of it, just because like everybody's going to be siding like evenly Lightning Storm for you. So you really want to see that card specifically, just so you don't lose to those blowouts. And the last card I play is Skill Drain in the main deck. I just had 1 extra slot once I like really figured out how I wanted the rest of the list, and I thought this was a good card because once you have one of your Evil Eye monsters equipped with Selene, it's untargetable. It can't be destroyed by card effects or by battle. And yeah, that under Skill Drain is just like so strong, and they like the monster continually just gets stronger and stronger until your opponent's just facing like a giant beater that can't be targeted, can't be destroyed, and unless they out the back row. And so like even if they out the Skill Drain, your monster now becomes live to be a disruption, and like good luck to your opponent, you know. So I thought Skill Drain actually was pretty good, and it just makes Adamantipator's pass if they're not playing like Cosmic or something. All right, then we get to the extract. This is going to be super quick, super simple. 3, Gorgon, Empress of the Evil Eye. This card is the only legit extra deck card that like really matters the most. This card kind of like is really nice. Kind of works kind of like Surzeal. When she's equipped with an Evil Eye of Selene, she becomes a quick effect to just negate a monster's effect once per turn, and then during your next standby phase, if you ever negated something, she would then force you to pop a card she points to. Obviously, if she doesn't point to anything, you don't have to pop anything. But what's really cool about that effect is the Kaijus, and that's why I wanted to go with the Kaijus, because if you go into her and you Kaiju your opponent, you want to put the Kaiju above where you're going to put her in terms of the zones. Then you like negate something, and then on the following turn, you just pop the Kaiju so that like your opponent doesn't even get a chance to make use of the Kaiju, whether they're going to use it as link material or a beater. They just don't even get to use it. So I really liked that as well. It's some nice synergy, and she also gains 100 attack for every different named Evil Eye card in your grave. So between getting buffs from Selene and Gorgonio, she also buffs herself, so she gets really big, really quick, and once per turn, negate a monster. Pretty good. Other than that, the rest is pretty standard, all just kind of like stuff that could potentially come up. 1 copy of Beat Cop. It's generic, and you can technically just go into it off of the 2 tokens. Not that you ever really will, but it's there, whoop-de-doo. 2 copies of Nightmare Phoenix, just because you can also co-link it under the Gorgon, which is pretty cool, and it's a fiend, so you can still go into it after using your new token card. Same thing with Cerberus, utility. You can get the redraw after the protection if you can co-link it under Gorgon. To Unicorn, same thing. I mean, all the same things. They give you you can potentially get the redraw and the co-link and their fiends. That's the main thing. Just utility. 1 copy of Zurziel. I have not gone into this card. Actually, I think I went into this card 1 time testing like a long time ago, and guess what? It lost me the duel because I committed too many monsters into him, and I should have just left Gorgon and another monster on the field. So I don't think he's that good. Like, obviously, I think he's better than Surzeal, but he's not worth, like, the amount of resources you would have to put into him. Maybe he'd be interesting if he took, like, 1 Evil Eye monster and, like, the rest of the materials could be something else, kind of like Gorgon. A Gorgon only takes 1 Evil Eye monster and another monster, so maybe that'd be interesting because you could play, like, other extenders and still be able to get into him off of just 1 Evil Eye monster, but he's just too much. Like, I guess theoretically he could come up and matter, but I don't know, he's there mainly for fun. And then for the Link 4s, Unchained Abomination, Nightmare Griffin, and Borreload Dragon. This is a Fiend. This is a Fiend, and this is an out, potentially, if you could get the Link materials on board, to something that's untargetable and indestructible. I doubt that you would very often be able to even make this, but it's there, just in case, you know? So, I don't know. I don't see this being made very often, but I had to fill space, and honestly, you could just play more copies of the Nightmares if you wanted to be extra careful and just play 3 Phoenix, 3 Unicorn, 3 Cerberus. That could be these, but also I do like him, actually. He could come up for sure, and this could also come up just resetting like a skill drain or something, and then just playing like with this and skill drain and just saying like, come and get it, bitch. Something like that. That'd be pretty cool. And the last card I play in the extra deck is 1 copy of Constellar Pleiades. I know we're only playing 1 Scythe, 1 Moraltac, but it came up today. Like, I literally played 10 games today, and it came up, and I made this, and it was nice, because you stun your opponent, and then you, like, disrupt them again. This deck does not kill super fast a lot of the time. And then from there, I was kind of like, all I have is a Surzeal and the 2 artifacts. Well, how about I just make Pleiades? And now I have 2 legit disruptions instead of just 1 and 2 beaters. So it's nice. It's not really going to come up all the time, obviously, very specific situations. But when it does, it's nice. So it's cool. I would play 1 copy of it just because the extra deck is so, like, unconsequential anyway, other than Gorgon. So that works. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the deck profile, guys. That's our Evil Eye list for post Eternity Code. I think the deck's pretty cool, honestly. Like, when it works, the deck really, really works. When you go first and you open any starter and then just like 1 or 2 nice pieces around it, like support pieces, like, you're off to the races. You're really going to set up a scary board that's tough to break through, and I love the fact that they have a counter trap that negates spells and traps. That's so nice. It's one of the best, like, reasons I love this deck, is because post-siding, you are going to see evenly Lightning Storm. Those are the 2, like, most common cards you're going to see for this kind of deck, and so it's just super nice to have a searchable out to those. And so I would probably side 1 or 2, like I said before, just so that when you know you're going first and you know your opponent's probably bringing that stuff for you, you're just like, okay, I have these though, so I can at least blank 1 of those. And if you didn't draw 2, I'm going to have a chance to play my control game and do what I want to do. So, really cool deck, guys. I'm a big fan of control decks like this. Of course, as always, let me know your thoughts down below on this deck list. I would consider myself more of like a bigger fan of Evil Eye than like a lot of stuff, so I do think I know this deck fairly well. But of course, I'm always open to suggestions. I'm always open to hearing other people's opinions, because just because it's different doesn't mean it's wrong. I'm definitely interested to hear people's opinions, because I can be swayed to potentially thinking about playing other stuff. So of course, let me know your thoughts down below on that. And lastly, I guess if you're not subscribed yet and you're seeing this deck profile, I guess subscribe for more, because I've got tons of deck profiles coming, especially once Eternity Code gets officially released and I can get those cards in person. That opens the way for me to make like legit like over 10 deck profiles. And so I'm really excited to just pump those out for you guys. But thank you so much for watching, as always. I'll see you in the next video. I love you. Peace.